So when it comes to an algorithm, it is a step-by-step procedure in order to solve a given problem. What is the formula in order to find the simple interest? P into T into R over 100. So time complexity in the sense, it will going to focus on the time it will going to take in order to run that program or in order to complete that run. Hello everyone, welcome back to the second session on 5th chapter of your first PUC's computer science, that is problem solving methodology. Myself Rohini TS, lecturer in computer science, Vidyashram Pre-University College, Mysuru. So before getting into the today's session, let me have a recap of previous session. So in the last session, I had a discussion regarding the introduction part of this problem solving methodology. Along with that, in order to solve any of the problem, what are the steps that we require to follow? Okay, then what was the definition of this problem solving methodology? It is a process of defining the solution to a complex problem in the number of sub-problem. That means we are not going to consider a problem as a complex task. So instead of that, it will be carried as a simple operation. So several simple operation will going to find a solution for the complex problem, right? So that must be understood by the computer. If the computer understands the problem, then only it will going to process. Then what are the steps that we need to follow when we are working with this problem solving methodology? How many stages were there? So let me have a discussion now. So when it comes to the step which is involved in the problem solving, first we are supposed to define the problem, that is problem definition. So in this problem definition, we are going to tell what is the problem. So here we are not going to understand, or we are not just focusing on how to solve a problem. Instead of that, we are just only focusing on what is the problem, that is problem definition. So which is the next one? That is problem analysis. Problem analysis is the second stage of problem solving. When it comes to the analysis, we need to understand the problem and we need to find, or we have to analyze the problem thoroughly. How we are going to analyze this problem? That means with the help of input and output. So what it means? What are the input which is required in order to solve a problem, and what will be the input we should give as a data and instruction. Then when it comes to the output, how the output will going to come, or that means what is the desired output that we are going to get from this problem analysis, that we are going to discuss in second stage, that is problem analysis. Okay, so there we only focused on the WH question. So what is the input, what is the time it requires, what are the methodologies that we are going to use, why this problem occurs, that all the WH questions will comes under problem analysis. So then which is the third step? That is designing of a solution by making use of the designing tools. Then which is the designing tools that I have discussed in the last session? That is algorithms. So algorithms is nothing but it is a procedure, or it is a step-by-step process in order to give a solution to any problem. Okay, so it is a step-by-step procedure in order to give a solution for any of the problem. That is known as what? Algorithm. Then what are the characteristics of algorithm is there? That is input. So this algorithm must accept one or more input, right? So after this, we have next characteristics, that is effective. Then it must have a definite numbers of steps. At one stage, it has to be terminate. So there must be an end-to-end algorithm, right? What is the last one? That we are going to get the desired output. Okay, so what is this? These are all the characteristics of an algorithm. So it must accept one or more input, and when it comes to the effectiveness, so user has to work with pen and paper. That means it will be trial and error. There will be more possibility for the single problem, okay, that we have to work it on. When it comes to the definite, there must be some definite numbers of steps in order to come to a conclusion. Then we terminate in the sense at one stage it has to terminate. That means it has to come to an end. So which is the last one? That is output. So after writing all these things, it has to give the desired output to the user. Okay, so these are the characteristics of an algorithm. So in this session, we're going to see how to design an algorithm and what are the advantages and disadvantages we have, then how to analyze the algorithm, that I am going to discuss in today's session. So now we know the stages of problem solving methodology, isn't it? So in the third one, we are going to design a solution by making use of the designing tools that can be either algorithms and flowchart, right? So when it comes to an algorithm, it is a step-by-step procedure in order to solve a given problem. For that, we have to take its characteristics. So based on that characteristics, it has to accept the input and it has to process the data and it must terminate to a particular stage and it must be effective, okay? And at last, it must give some output or desired result to the user. So now what and all we have to concentrate here? First, we need to define the problem. What is the problem? And when it comes to the analysis, we have to analyze the problem. That means what are the input and outputs that I require. So based on that, we are going to write the algorithm. Okay. So here I have one example, that is an algorithm to find the area of a rectangle. So here I have a rectangle. I need to find the area. How to find an area of a rectangle? That is length into breadth. Length into okay. So this is the formula in order to identify the area of an rectangle, right? So that is what? Length and breadth. So now you have to define which is the problem here. Here I need to find the area of a rectangle. Then that is the problem definition. Then what is the analysis? What are all the inputs that we require? So the input I require is length and breadth. So those two are the values that I need to give. So that will be considered as what? Input. So that means what? I am analyzing what are the possibilities. Then when it comes to the output, then what we are going to get? So by computing this length and breadth, then we are going to get the area of a rectangle. So that will be the output. In that way, you have to analyze. Okay. So now we'll see the step-by-step procedure how I am going to get the area of a rectangle. Right. So when it comes to the first step, so while writing a algorithm, you have to follow steps. Okay. Step 1 and step last will be always start and stop. So when it comes to the step 1, it is always start. We need to start the execution. That means we need to start writing a solution for the problem. That will be step 1. So in second step, we are going to give the input. So then for this problem, what are the inputs that we are taking? Length and breadth. So when it comes to the step 2, read the values of L and B. So what are the values that we are taking? L and B. So here L stands for length and B stands for breadth. So what are the inputs that I am taking then? That is input L comma B. So these two are the inputs. So understand what are the inputs that I am taking? L comma B. Okay, these two are the inputs. Then which is the next one? It has to process. Then how it will going to process? How to calculate the area of a rectangle? What was the formula that I have discussed? That is L into B. So what I am doing? I am taking the input for the L and B. So whatever the value has been given to this L and B, that will get multiplied, right? So once it is get multiplied, it has to store somewhere. For example, sum is equal to A plus B. So what it means? So here I am adding two numbers A and B. So this plus is nothing but process. So this plus is process and A and B are the inputs. Then what will be the output? This sum. So where it will going to hold the value of addition of those two A and B, that will be stored in the sum variable. So in the same way, I am taking REC, that is rectangle. So I am storing the area of a rectangle in the variable called REC. Okay, so that is L and B will get multiplied and that will be copied to this REC variable. So if I want to display the value of area of a rectangle, then where it will be stored? It is stored in the variable called REC. Getting? That is rectangle. So in step 4, So now I have taken the input, I have analyzed what and all the input that I require, then I have processed. Then which is the next stage? It has to give the output, right? Then when it comes to the step 5, print the area of a rectangle. So where the area of a rectangle has been stored, that has been stored in the variable called REC. So that I am going to use output REC. Okay, or else you can also take it like area is equal to L into B. So if it is area equal to L into B, then instead of REC, you are supposed to take this as area. Okay, so you can give the variable name in a different manner. So at last, now I got an output. Then what must be the last one? It has to end the algorithm. How to end the algorithm? By saying stop. Okay, so first we need to start, then we are supposed to read the values or input, that is for this context L and B, that is length and breadth. Then we have to calculate. How to do the calculation? In order to find the area of a rectangle, area or rectangle is equal to L into B. Whatever the value which is given to L and B, that will be copied to this variable. So once I am done with processing, I have to display the value. So that is print the area of a rectangle. Output we are doing. So it is input, this is output. Okay, what is the output? That is rectangle, that consists the value of L and B multiplied. Then end of an algorithm. How to show the end of an algorithm? That is stop. Okay, so this is how we are going to write an algorithm in order to understand or in order to solve any of the problem. Okay, now I have one more algorithm. We'll see design an algorithm to find the average of 4 numbers. So what I'm doing, I'm finding the average of 4 numbers. Okay, how we are going to find an average of 4 numbers? So first you have to think about the problem definition. Here I'm supposed to take, or we need to find an average of 4 numbers. So this is problem specification. I'm specifying this as a problem. Then when it comes to the analysis, we have to understand what is the input and what will be the output, right? So when it comes to the input, what they are saying, we have to find an average of 4 numbers. So if it is 4 numbers, then what must be the input? I have to take any 4 numbers, right? I need to take any 4 numbers. And how to find an average of any 4 numbers? So let me take an example. I am going to consider 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so these 4 are the numbers which I am taking in order to find the average of these 4 numbers. Okay, then how to find an average? I need to add all these numbers, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. I am going to get some value. How to find an average? So I need to add all the numbers and should be divided by the number of average numbers. So here we are taking an average of 4 numbers. What if it is 3 numbers? At that time I am not going to take one more number as 4. So instead of that I will be adding 1 plus 2 plus 3. And whatever the value that I am going to get, that will be divided by 3 itself. But when it comes to average of 4 numbers, I am going to add. So what I am going to get? 10. By adding all these numbers, it must be divided by 4. Right? Because we are finding an average of 4 numbers. 4 ones are 4, 4 twos are 8, and if I take remainder, then it will be 20. So 4 fives are 20. So I am going to get 2.5. So what I am going to get? I am going to get 2.5 as an average of 4 numbers. So instead of taking this fractional part, we are going to take this as 2. Okay. So in order to depict this problem, we are writing a algorithm. Then I will see how I am going to write an algorithm in order to find an average of 4 numbers. So what is the first step? I need to start. That is step 1. When it comes to the step 2, we are supposed to take the inputs. Then what are the inputs for this one? I have to take 4 numbers. Okay, here you have to specify the variables, not the value. Okay, so that I am taking A, B, C, D. So these 3 are the variables. So in A, I am going to store 1. In B, I am going to store 2. In C, 3. And in D, 4. Okay, so that will be the value. So value is different and variable is different. Here we are taking the variables, that is A, B, C, D. Then how to calculate an average of 4 numbers? That is average is equal to A plus B plus C plus D, which will be divided by 4. Okay, so if it is average of 3 numbers, so at that time we are going to take A plus B plus C which is divided by 3 itself. Okay, that is how we are going to find an average. So whatever the average that we are going to get, that is, if you consider this example, average will be 2, right? So that value will be stored in this AVG or average variable. Getting? So how to define or how to declare the output? By making use of keyword called output. Okay, output, where the value of this average of all the 4 numbers has been stored, that is stored in the average variable, so that we are going to output AVG. So we are going to get the average of 4 numbers by taking AVG as a output. At last, what we need to do, that is stop. Okay, so input ABCD and I am finding an average and I am displaying an average and then stop. Next, design an algorithm to calculate the simple interest. So what we are doing, we are finding a simple interest. What is the formula in order to find the simple interest? P into T into R over 100, right? So for that, what are the inputs that we require? So now we have to analyze. So for that, in order to find the simple interest, we require principal amount, then what? Rate of interest, then the time. Okay, so these are the things that you have to analyze when it comes to the input. Then what will be the output? What we are going to get as an output? That is simple interest. So we are supposed to give the principal value, that is principal amount has to be specified, then rate of interest along with the time taken. Okay, so now we'll see the stages. Step 1, it has to start. So when it comes to the step 2, it will going to take the input P, T and R. So P stands for principal amount, T stands for time and R stands for rate of interest. Okay, so these 3 are the variables that we are going to use in order to design this algorithm to find the simple interest. Then which is the third stage, that is calculation part. How we are going to calculate the simple interest? What is the formula for that? That is P into T into R divided by 100. So when you are working with computer science, for multiplication you are not supposed to take like this. Okay, so instead of this one, you are supposed to use asterisk symbol. This represents the multiplication. So that I am going to multiply the value of P with T and with R. Okay, whatever the value that I am going to get, that will be divided by 100. So that this will going to give me the simple interest. Okay, but when we are using a computer science, at that time we are not supposed to take the division like this. So instead of that, I have to take like this. So this will give me the simple interest of a given value. Okay, so where it will going to store then? It will be stored in the variable called SI, that is simple interest, or else you can also write the full name. Simple interest is equal to P into T into R divided by 100. For example, if I take this as 2000, then I am going to give the rate of interest as 2% and I am going to give 2 months of time. Okay, how the calculation will going to happen? Let me take this one. So that is 2000. So where it will be stored? It will be stored in the SI. So P is nothing but 2000. Then T is nothing but 2 and rate of interest will be 2. So 2000 into 2, 4000. 4000 into 2 will be 8000. This will be going to divide by 100. So 8000 by 100 is nothing but what? It will gives me 80. So then what is the simple interest? That is 80. So that value will be stored in this SI variable. So then which is the variable I should display in order to get the simple interest? That is SI, output SI. At last I need to stop. What are the variables that I am taking as an input? P, T and R. What is the calculation part that we are doing? We are multiplying the value of principal amount with T, that is time, with rate of interest, then needs to be divided by 100%. So that we are going to get some value, that value will be stored in this SI variable. So that once we got the output, it has to be stop. So at last, we are going to specify that as stop. So now we'll see the next algorithm, that is design an algorithm to find the greatest of 3 numbers. So greatest in the sense what? Largest of three numbers. So I'm taking three numbers. I'm going to find which is the largest. So what we are supposed to do? I have to take three numbers. I need to give some value to each value. That means if I'm taking A, B, C, then I need to give some value to A, some value to B and some value to C, right? So after that, I am going to check which is the largest among all these three. Okay, so let me consider A is equal to 10, B is equal to 25 and C is equal to 20. So now you must be able to understand that which is the largest among all these three. So now I hope you got the answer, that is B. So we'll work with algorithm now. Now we are going to get the same value or not, we'll check. Okay, so when it comes to the algorithm, what is the first step? That is, we need to start. What are the input that I am taking? I am taking three variables as an input, that is A, B and C. Can we take X, Y, Z? Yes. So, but you can take any of the variable name, but it has to follow the identifier rules. Okay, so that is input A, B, C. So in the next step, what I am taking, I am assigning the A to large. That means I am considering that without looking into the value of A, B, C, I am going to consider that A is the largest. So that large is equal to A. Then what is the value of A now? So I have taken value of A as 10. So for my perception, what is the value of A now? That is 10. Okay, so this is regarding third step. Just understand that without looking into the value of A, B, C, I'm just declaring that yes, A is a highest number or A is the greatest of all these three. Okay, so now we'll see the next step. So in step 4, I'm going to compare the large and B. So what I'm doing? I'm comparing the large and B. So you must know that which is the large as of now, that is A value. A will be considered as large. So I am going to compare this A value with B now. So now we'll see how we are going to compare, that is if B greater than large. So then what is the B value here? 25. So if 25 greater than large, which is the large number that I have specified, that is A. Then what is the value of A? That is 10, right? Now you have to analyze. If 25 is greater than 10, whether it is true or false, 25 is greater than 10 or not. So it is greater than 10. So this condition get satisfied. So here we are checking, if in the sense we are checking whether this 25 is greater than 10. So if it is true, if it is yes, then what will going to happen? Large is equal to B. So now I have initialized the A as a large, but now I am comparing. What I am comparing? I am comparing the large with the B. But now I got to know that A is not a large. So B is larger than this A. So instead of taking A as a large, now I am making B as a large. So that which is the large number now? That is B. What is the value of B? That is 25. So as of now, which is the large number? That is B. So the value of B will be 25. So end if. So if it is true, it will going to end here. Okay. So in step 4, we got to know that B is the largest. So which is the step 5? So here I am going to compare the large and C. So as I did for the large and B, now I am going to compare this C with the large. So this will be the ultimate stage. Why? Because I have declared A as the largest, but I have compared that A with B, that is second variable. So I got to know that B is larger than A. So I have left out with one more variable called C. That needs to be compared with the largest now. So if it is true, then I am going to declare C as the largest, or else I am going to declare B as the largest itself. Right? So here compare large and C. What is the logic? If C is greater than large, that is if C is nothing but what is the value of C? That is 20. 20 is greater than large. So as of now, which is the large? That is 25. 25 is nothing but B value. So I am going to take that value. So if 20 is greater than 25, whether it is true or false? So you have to tell me whether it is true or false. It is false because 20 is not greater than 25. So that this condition become false. So if the condition become false in the sense what? I am not making C as a largest. So that what it means? Largest will be B itself. So that value will be stored as a large number. So that large is equal to C because this condition become false. So if this condition become false, then no need to initialize the value of C to large. Okay. So this part will not going to execute because this condition only become false. If it is true, then it will going to execute. Right. Then which is the step 6? So now I have compared all the 3 values. Now I need to display the large number. So print the largest number. So where this large value has been stored? It has been stored in the variable called large. Okay. So I am going to take this as output large. Okay. All the variable must be similar. So here make a correction. It is capital L. Okay. So output large. So large we have. Here also we have large, and I am going to compare this large with all the variables. Okay. So output large. So at last it has to be stop. So this is how we are going to get a solution in a step-by-step manner. So now what will be the answer for this one? Output large. So which is the current value of this large? That is B. So I am going to consider this B as a largest number. So that is nothing but 25. Okay, so this is how we are going to get the output. Let me move on to the next algorithm, that is an algorithm to find a factorial of a number. So what do you mean by factorial then? So factorial is nothing but we are supposed to give one number. It will going to find a product which is lesser than or equal to the given number. Okay, that is nothing but factorial. For example, here I have a 3 factorial. How to find the 3 factorial? So what are the lesser number I have for 3? So that is 3 into 2 into 1. So what we are doing here? We are finding a product of a given number lesser than or equal to that given number. So that 3 factorial is nothing but 3 into 2 into 1. So you have to understand one thing. 0 factorial is always equal to 1. 0 factorial is always is equal to 1. Okay. So 3 into 2 is nothing but 6. 6 into 1 is 6 itself. Then what is the value of 3 factorial? That is 6. In order to depict this problem, we are writing an algorithm here. Okay. What is the first step? As always, it must be start. So the first step is start. Then what is the input that I need to take? So here what is the input that I have taken? I have taken only one positive integer. So that I am going to take this n as a variable. Input n. So this n can be any number. So here I have taken n as 3. Right? Then initialize the factorial to 1. So as I discussed, factorial of 0 is always is equal to 1. So here we are initializing this fact as 1. So fact is equal to 1. Then I have taken a value for n as 3. Okay. Next, step 4, compute the factorial by successive multiplication. Now what I am supposed to do? I need to do the multiplication for the successive numbers. So that if it is 3, then 3 into 2 into 1. If it is 5, 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. In that way we have to compute. So then repeat for I equals to 1 to n. So from which stage I need to multiply or I need to find out? From 1 to n. So here n value is 3. 1 to n in the sense 1 into 2 into 3. Okay. So that is what they are saying in this one. For I equals to 1 to n. So for I is equal to 1. So I am taking the first iteration, that is I equals to 1. So here fact is equal to fact into I. Okay. So what is the fact value? That is 1. So what is the I value? 1. So 1 into 1 will be 1. So that will be stored as a fact value now. So I am done with this step. Okay. Again, they have told that it is from for loop 1 to n. Now I have covered only one step. So next I am going to increment the I by 1. I will come to the next iteration, that is I is equal to 2. Right? So because what they are saying, 1 to n value is 3. So that means I need to take 3 steps. So 1, 2 and 3. These 3 steps needs to be followed. In each iteration I have to give the value for I. So that is I is equal to 1 one time, I is equal to 2 one time and I is equal to 3 one more time. Okay. So fact is equal to fact into I. So now we know that what is the I value right now? 2. So what is the fact value? 1. So fact is equal to fact into I. So fact is 1 into I is nothing but 2. So 1 into 2 will be 2. Okay. So this is when I is equal to 2. So next I am going to increment the I by 1, that is I become 3 because I have a limit, that is n is 3. So I am going to take I equals 3. So how to find a factorial? So fact into I. What is the fact value right now? So here you have to consider this is fact. What is the fact value? That is 2. So 2 into what is the I value? 3. So 3 2s are 6. Okay. So 3 2s are 6. Then what is the fact value right now? That is 6 itself. Okay. So that is about 4th step. So here we are going to find the factorial. I have given 3 as an input. Now I got a 6 as a output. Because 3 into 2 into 1 will going to give me 6. So that will be the output. So in order to make this one, we have written this algorithm. Okay. So print factorial of a given number. Where the value of factorial has been stored? It has been stored in the fact variable. So that output fact. Then at last step we need to stop. Okay. So this is the algorithm in order to find the factorial of a given number. Okay. I hope you understood how to write an algorithm. First we are supposed to understand the input. That means before to that we have to understand the specification of a problem. Later on we have to move the analysis part. There I am going to analyze what are the inputs that I require, what must be the process, then how it will be the output. Okay. So those 3 are the points that you have to remember. So now we'll see what are the advantages of algorithm. So very important question. What are the advantages of algorithm? So we know that what is algorithm, how to write an algorithm, then what are the advantages we have when we are using this algorithm? We'll see now. It is a step-by-step representation of a solution to a given problem which is very easy to understand. So if you look into all these things, here we have clear picture of each line of code. Okay. So each step will going to give me the some resultant. Right? So it is a step-by-step presentation of a solution to any of the given problem. So that will make the user in order to analyze, or that will make the easier for the user in order to understand. Okay, that is the first point. It has got a definite procedure. So here I have to come to a particular end. So when I reaches to the output stage, it has to be end, right? That so it has got a definite procedure which can be executed within a set of period of time. So if I am finding the factorial of a number, at the time when will be the end of this one? When I got the factorial for a given value of n. So that will be the end. When we are using this algorithm, it has a definite procedure. So once it is reaches to the required output, it has to terminate. So that is the second advantage. That is what? It has got a definite procedure which can be executed within a set of period of time. There will be limit of a time. So based on that constraint, it will going to work. It is an independent of programming language. So what is this? It is not dependent on any of the programming languages. For example, if I am writing a program in C++, this algorithm won't get affected by that programming language. If I am writing a code by using of this Java language, so even though that algorithm does not get affected by that programming languages. So for all the programming languages, the algorithm remains same. Okay. So that is, it is an independent of programming language, and it is easy to debug as every step has got its own logical sequence. So if I find any of the error or any mistakes occurs, at the time it will be easy for me. Why it will be easy? Because here I have a step-by-step solution. So if I got to know that yes, I have mistaken in the stage 2 or a step 2, then no need to worry about all these steps, right? So I'm just going to make a correction in the step 2 itself, so that it will be a step-by-step representation of a solution, so that it will be easy to debug. So debug in the sense we are going to checking for an error. So once we found an error, it needs to be corrected. So it will be easy because every step of a algorithm has been got a definite or a particular logical sequence. So this is regarding an advantages of an algorithm. Then what are the disadvantages of algorithm? So we know that in order to write a logic or in order to write a program, first we need to design an algorithm. Once the algorithm is done, it has to be converted into flowchart. Once the flowchart is done, it has to be converted into any of the programming languages. So it will take more time. So that is the disadvantage. It is time consuming. So now we have seen a simple problem. But what if the program consists of 1000 number of lines? At that time, I have to write the 0th or step 1 to 1000 steps, right? So just think about the time, how much time it required. So it will be time consuming. And an algorithm is developed first, which needs to be converted into flowchart and then into a computer program. So as I discussed, I have to create an algorithm, then it needs to be converted to flowchart, then later on we are going to convert that into programming language. So it is time consuming and it needs to be converted into flowchart, then programming language. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. So then how to analyze the algorithm? What is the analysis of an algorithm will going to take place? So you have to understand one thing. There is no only one way of finding a solution for a given problem. Okay. So there could be a possibility of more than one type of solution. So that analysis of an algorithm in the sense it is a trial and error method. So I am not going to consider this solution as the ultimate solution for my problem. Instead of that, I am going to think in another perspective. So there could be one more solution for this given problem. So that is analysis of an algorithm. So there will be more than one solution for a particular problem. That is, there may be more than one approach to solve a given problem. Then how we are going to choose? So the choice of a particular algorithm which is depends on the performance. So we have to understand one thing, there will be more than one solution for a particular problem. Then how to find a particular solution or how to fetch that yes, this solution will going to works well with my problem. So there we have two parameters. So based on that we have to choose an algorithm. Okay. So that is nothing but what? So we have to, based on the choice of a particular algorithm is always depends on the performance of an analysis. Performance analysis and some measurement. What is those measurement? That is space complexity and time complexity. So if I am working with this algorithm or if I am finding a solution for my problem with this algorithm, then what is the time it will going to consume? And what is the space it will going to occupy? That is the memory space. How much it will going to acquire. So based on that, so the time taken should be less and the acquired space must be less. Then only I can say that yes, this algorithm is fine. So that is space complexity. Based on space complexity and based on the time complexity, we are going to choose a best algorithm. Okay, so that is space complexity in the sense what? The amount of memory needed by the algorithm to complete its run. So if I'm going to write an algorithm, so if I'm running the program in the sense what? It has to check for the amount of memory it is required. So that is nothing but space complexity. Then what we have? Time complexity. So time complexity in the sense it will going to focus on the time it will going to take in order to run that program or in order to complete that run. So that is the amount of time the algorithm needed in order to complete its run. So based on these two parameters or based on these two standards, we are going to choose the best algorithm. So for that, we are going to analyze the algorithm, that is analysis of an algorithm. So it is mainly based on this analysis of an algorithm is mainly based on the input data that what we are going to give. So then what are the three possibilities or three possible cases? That is best case, average case and worst case. If my algorithm is working fine with my problem, then that is best case. Okay, so if the algorithm is averagely working for my problem and it is giving a not so satisfied resultant, then we can call that as a average case. Then when it comes to the worst case, it is not fit as a solution for the given problem. Okay, so these are the three parameters that we are going to get or that we are going to use in order to analyze the algorithm, that is best case, average case and worst case. For example, here I have 1, 2, 3. I want to check a number whether 1 is present in this value or not. So what I am going to do, I am going to search each numbers individually. So I am checking for 1, right? So 1 is equal to 1. So I found a match. So that I can say I found a match. That means I am checking for 1 and I found that match in a first location itself. So that I can take that as a best case. Okay, because I am not consider these two values. So if I am going to consider these two values, it will take time and it will take space, but that is of none of my business. So that I am going to get the value in the first location itself. So that for me it will be best case. Then what will be the average case? So I am going to check 2 now. Okay, so now I need to check the value of 2. So I am going to compare this 1 with 2, whether 1 is equal to 2, not. So I am going to move to next one, that is 2. 2 is equal to 2. Yes, it is true. So what is the average case now? I have checked one number and I have left one more number, but I got a solution at the middle. So this will be average case. Then what will be the worst case? So now let me consider, I need to check for 3, whether 3 is present in the sequence of numbers or not. So I am going to check 1 is equal to 3. It's not. And 2 is equal to 3. But that is not the thing. Then 3 is equal to 3. I found a right answer. That is 3 is equal to 3. But how much time it requires? I didn't got this 3 in the first location, but I didn't got this 3 in the middle location. I got it at the last location. So that I have traveled all the 2 values. At last I have found a match. So this will be the worst case. Okay, so this is an example. I just make you understand that what is best case, average case and worst case. So based on the time and space complexity, we are going to analyze. I hope you all understood with today's session. It's all about today's session. In my next session, I am going to discuss about a flow chart. So now we have designed an algorithm. So in my next session, I am going to discuss flow chart. How to write a flow chart, what are the characteristics of flow chart is there, and what are the symbols that we are going to use in order to write a flow chart. So it's all about today's session. I'm going to meet you in the next session. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you very much.